Hey, I'm Dr. Roseanne Capanna-Hodge, and today we're going to have a conversation about should I medicate or should I not medicate my child? It really is something that people struggle with every day, and we're going to dive into it today because I've just been DM'd in our Facebook group. We've had messages, and I want to be able to answer those questions. So let's dive in. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Roseanne Capanna-Hodge, and I'm a mental health trailblazer who's on a mission to change the way we view and treat children's mental health, really giving parents the tools that they need to really cultivate the kind of behavior and mental wellness, not just for their child, for their family, that everybody deserves and can have without medication. So, in today, what we're going to be talking about is, should I medicate my child or not? Is this a behavior I should medicate? And if you're listening and it's the first time that you're here, I have this awesome Facebook group called Natural Parenting Solutions. You can go to drroseanne.com/group to learn more about it. But, in our podcast, it's going to be okay with Dr. Roseanne. We have these awesome episodes like we're doing today. And you can certainly listen. I'm really excited that it's going to be launching soon. So is this a behavior I should medicate? So before we talk about, is this a real problem behavior or not? Let's talk about typical behaviors, right? And I don't think people understand, like, nobody got a license, including myself, when we went to have kids. And so sometimes we're not sure, is this typical or is this not? And what I want to say is that any behavior, problematic behavior, healthy behaviors can show up for short periods of time. And certainly we're paying attention or concerned when we see things like, what would be behaviors that, you are seeing that are typical, your kid, excuse me, getting upset, hitting their sibling, forgetting to do their homework. There's a lot of behaviors that occur that are really pretty normal. Your kid's pushing back, from you and wanting space and autonomy. I mean, these are all normal developmental behaviors. But the question is, when should you be concerned, right? So we should be concerned about behaviors that occur at a high frequency, right? So they're occurring a lot. They maybe occur for long durations, and your child has a hard time recovering, particularly from upset behaviors. And the same can be said when they're really little and it's tantrums, right? Like, when should you be worried about any behavior, from tantrum to withdrawn behaviors to focus behaviors? It doesn't matter what the behavior is. This is when we start to really wonder, is there something going on? And what prompted me to actually do this live today, as I said, is I got a bunch of DMs. It's a time of year where it's in the school year and your quarter grades are coming out. And it's kind of like, oh my God, it's the same problem every year. And so we then start to think, is this an issue or is it not? If it's the same problem every year, kids, it probably is an issue. But I had a mom in the Facebook group who said, every time she is about to book an evaluation for her child to receive medication, her son's behavior improves. Okay. So let's unpack that. Let's unlock that for a little bit and think about what that's going on, right? So what's going on is most likely that mom is noticing a behavior and at some subconscious level, there's probably a change in how she's supporting her kid. Hope that's an aha moment. Okay. And when we support our kids differently, their behaviors can improve, right? Or not. Maybe they worsen. But that is probably what's going on. Maybe you talk to the teacher. Maybe you're saying, wow, Joe's struggling again. Let me put a little extra effort into it. We have to start looking, right? I always talk about being a parent detective. Let's put our detective hat on and think about, what is really going on. But if you are consistently dealing with the same problem, you got a problem, right? And as I always say, nobody ever regrets getting help. They only regret when you don't. But from talking about the brain, we're going to talk about understimulated and overstimulated behaviors. And then I love to talk about internalizing and externalizing behaviors. And they overlap, right? So our understimulated behaviors tend to be more internalizers, or overstimulated behaviors tend to be externalizing. And then if you heard me talk before, when we remove the personalization piece about our kids' behavior, we see that there is a way that they're operating sort of at an automatic level that maybe doesn't serve them. And you're always like, well, it's not a really great behavior. Well, we all do great don't do some great things, right? Like you're binge watching Netflix for 8 hours. You could be, I don't know, sorting your laundry. You could be doing something else, meditating, exercise, a whole bunch of other things. It doesn't mean that you should never watch Netflix, but we all make choices sometimes at this very deeply subconscious level, and we shouldn't feel bad about it for ourselves, right? We can't live there. But when we start, in that internalizer, it's kids that are struggling with focus, and their brains reflect this, you guys. When I do these QEEG brain maps, which I love, it's an unbelievable way for those of you that are like, I don't know, is it ADD? Is it, I don't care? Is it a learning disability? Is it anxiety? The QEEG just gets right to the bottom of it, and we don't have to think about it anymore. It really is an amazing diagnostic tool. And if anybody is really interested, you can certainly go to www.drroseanne.com/apply. And we could talk more about it. But I love them. They really just take the guesswork out, no spaghetti on the wall, and it really, really is helpful. So on the extreme, on the externalizing behaviors, the overstimulated, you might see more moodiness, you might see more observable signs of worry. So, what does that look like? It might be more kind of like viperish responses when you ask them to do something outside of their comfort zone. You might see sensory behavior. These are the same kids that, tell you to F off, punch a hole in the wall. They love you. They're just struggling in the inside. All these kind of cases struggle on the inside. So what should you do when you see concerning behavior? I think really is the bigger issue, right? So we talked about, number one, don't ignore behavior because it's not going to go away. Where's my wand? My magic wand is here. So it's not going to magically go away on its own, number one, right? You can't just be like, well, I don't really think he's got an ADD because he's got straight A's. If the roller coaster is there, right, and we have a consistency of behaviors, and even a pattern of inconsistency can be consistency. When I work with people in our program, when I dive in there's often a pattern that reflects that there's a consistent problem. So, okay, so first quarter's okay, second quarter's bumpy. Is that typically what happens? Parents think and they go, yeah, right? So, when we, see these behaviors, what can you do, right? So one, I talk a lot about behavioral support. If you're in a Facebook group, go back and watch some of those episodes. If you're listening to the podcast, you can certainly listen to the episodes when they go live. And we want to make sure we're identifying and supporting the right behaviors, right? When we point out to our kids, don't do that, it's really not very helpful, right? And instead, we're reinforcing what they shouldn't be doing, and they don't know what they should be doing, which is surprising to parents when they think, well, this is a straight A student. Well, this is a different part of their brain that may or may not be working, right? And again, what prompted this was concerns about inconsistent grades. But if we back up and we really look at, what about kids that aren't really doing well in school? Well, that's kind of a no-brainer because we often are using benchmarks, grades as the benchmark of mental health, but that's really clear that there's some effect, right? A clinical issue, there's got to be an effect in their world. So that's their school life, that's their home life. Maybe they have a job, or it's relationships with others, whether again, family relationships, even love relationships or friendships. If there's an impact, then we have a clinical problem and it needs to be addressed. And I think, the question becomes, like parents always say, like, I need help, right? And so if you need help in dealing with your child's or teenagers' behaviors, you've got to have a trusted resource. And, that is exactly what we do in our brain behavior reset program. We work with people all over the world. It's the only way to get access to me. And, we just really get in there, identify what the issue is, super, super clear, and lay out a care plan, and then guide parents through a 6-month program to really turn around behavior. Because, if you're in this up and down, it's not going away. You're like, you kind of go, oh, look, it went away for a quarter. Oh, there it is again. Oh, it wasn't there last year because we had the world's best teacher, but here it is again. And then, I get this influx of people in probably 11th and 12th grade, certainly, unfortunately, in the middle of college. It's never too late. But what happens is we really do really struggle with behaviors at different points, and it can really affect us. So here's a question about, what do you do when kids don't want to go to school? And just so you know, Serena, I have an awesome resource for you. I have a 3-blog series about school refusal. I think what you really have to do is, what's behind it, right? What's behind why your kid's not wanting to go to school? Did it happen overnight, right? Put your parent detective hat on, back it up, right? And often we think getting our kids to school will solve the problem. I just worked with somebody who their child was in complete distress. I mean, you name a problem, it was there. Okay. Suicide ideation, cutting, school refusal. I mean, a whole other list of things, a bunch of clinical shopping cart diagnoses. And the bottom line was, as awesome as these parents were, they really believed if they got their kid back to school, it would all go away. And they're great people. So they, used me as their trusted advisor. And I was like, it's not going to make it go away. And they were like, help us to understand. And I really helped them to understand that really, if we don't fix the core, we don't fix the inside, the school refusal wasn't going to go away. And in the case of this person, this was somebody with some emotional stuff underneath there, some anxiety. So what's behind the school refusal? Is there an attention problem? I'm listing off like ones that I know. Is there that are common, I should say? Bullying problems, peer issues. Is the schoolwork too hard? Right? Are they somebody who's pans and pandas, who gets infections all the time? Do they have social anxiety? You really have to understand and get to root causes. And, for everybody that works with me and has had that, I've had the privilege of working with so many thousands of people successfully and turning it around. I think the thing that they're sort of shocked the most about is just the common sense that I impart, and really getting to the bottom of it, where, sadly in mental health, they're like, here's the symptom, this is what we're going to treat. Right. So you've got school refusal. We're going to treat the school refusal, but what's behind it? Right. We're going to this will morph into something else if we don't really get to those root causes. So, if you're interested in working with us, you can apply. You can, drroseanne.com/apply. But I think the biggest takeaway here is it's about behaviors. Okay. And yes, there are a very small window, or I should say, there is a time for some people who need medication when truly there's a chemical imbalance. You're talking bipolar, you're talking schizophrenia. We should never, ever start with psychiatric medications with kids. They hand them out like candy, and it doesn't change behavior. It's supposed to regulate the nervous system. I don't see that happening. And it comes with a whole host of toxic side effects that impact the brain, both short term and long term. We know through research. And I have lots of blogs about that research. If you want that research, you can go to drroseanne.com/my blog, and you can search medication side effects and it will come right up. But really, what I want to do is always to empower you as a parent, you as an educator. It's about micro change of behavior. And when we shape and reinforce the desired behavior, that's when change happens. Long-term change, mental wellness, right? That's what we want to create. Generational, immediate, and generational mental wellness. And that's a big part of why I'm out here doing what I'm doing. So if you need guidance in it, we're here, and, feel free to apply to us today. I hope you enjoyed this conversation about, kids' behavior. Should I medicate? Should I not? When should I be concerned about behavior? You should be concerned about behavior when it's consistent. And that's really the biggest takeaway. Don't ignore it. Get help and get support, get parenting support, because again, none of us are equipped at dealing with this, but we are when we have the right people guiding you along the way. So wherever you are on the journey is exactly where you need to be. Sending every parent out there a lot of love and light. And if you're an educator, share this with your peeps.